That moment broke something inside me. But an hour later, the truth about who really paid for her perfect wedding shattered the entire room. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And let me know in the comments, what's the most hurtful thing someone you love has ever said to you? I raised my daughter alone. After her mother passed away, it was just Emily and me. I was both father and mother, making sure she had lunches packed, homework done, rides to every soccer practice and ballet recital. I still remember the nights she'd curl up on my chest, asking me to sing "You Are My Sunshine," even though I couldn't carry a tune to save my life. Every decision I made, every sacrifice, was for her. When she wanted piano lessons, I worked double shifts at the construction site. When she dreamed of college, I took out a second mortgage. And when she told me she had met the man of her dreams, I promised myself I'd give her the wedding she deserved, the kind of wedding her mother would have wanted to see. I spent nearly $70,000 from my savings to make it happen. The imported roses, the ballroom, the designer gown, everything was my gift to her. Every check signed, every invoice cleared, bore my name, not her fiancé's. I thought this was my way of showing love. But love, it turns out, isn't always seen the way you intend. The wedding day arrived, and I pulled out my best suit. It wasn't designer, no, just an old navy blue suit I'd worn to Emily's graduations, to job interviews, even to her first school play. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine, and I thought it carried memories of our life together. When Emily saw me in it, her smile faltered. She pulled me aside, away from the guests. "Dad," she whispered, glancing around nervously, as if someone might see. "Please don't embarrass me with your old clothes. People are watching. Michael's family, they're very particular." Her words stung. Embarrass her. I was the man who had sacrificed everything for this day, and yet I was nothing more than an eyesore in her eyes. I swallowed my pride and nodded. "Of course, sweetheart, I don't want to ruin your day." But inside, a storm was brewing. I watched the ceremony unfold. Emily looked radiant in the gown I had paid for. The guests whispered about the venue's beauty, about the abundance of flowers, about the exquisite catering, all of it funded by me. And yet when people asked, Michael's family took credit. His mother bragged about the event, claiming she had arranged it all. His father shook hands with guests, saying, "Only the best for our son." And Emily, my Emily, she said nothing. My heart burned with humiliation, but I stayed silent, because I wasn't going to ruin her day. Not yet. And then came the moment I will never forget, the toast. Michael's father stood, raising his glass high. "To my son and his beautiful bride," he declared. "This magnificent celebration is a testament to family. Our family's hard work, our generosity, our love." The room erupted in applause. Emily beamed. Michael smirked. And I sat there, invisible, as though the thousands of dollars I had poured into this wedding didn't exist. But what they didn't know, what Emily and Michael's entire family didn't realize, was that within the next hour, the truth would come crashing down. And when it did, Emily's perfect wedding would never be remembered for its beauty, only for the shame that followed. The laughter and applause after Michael's father's toast echoed in my ears like a cruel joke. I clapped too, quietly, my palms stinging with each hollow smack. It wasn't the sound of celebration, it was the sound of betrayal. Emily wouldn't even meet my eyes. She laughed at her in-laws' jokes, posed for photos with Michael's family, and left me sitting at the edge of the ballroom like I was some distant relative, not the father who had raised her, who had paid for everything she was flaunting. I tried to push the bitterness down. I told myself, this is her day, endure it, don't make a scene. But fate had other plans. The master of ceremonies announced it was time for the couple's speeches. Emily and Michael walked up to the microphone, hand in hand, grinning like royalty. First, Emily began, her voice trembling with happiness. "We want to thank everyone who made this day possible. My husband's family, who have been so supportive, so generous, and who truly made this dream wedding come true." Applause thundered. I froze. "Not one word about me," Michael continued. "Yes, my parents have worked tirelessly to give us this celebration. Without them, none of this would have been possible." My heart dropped into my stomach. My jaw clenched. The lies spread across the ballroom like wildfire, burning through the respect I still thought my daughter had for me. I stared down at my old suit, the one Emily had begged me not to wear, and felt the sting of her words all over again. Old, embarrassing, unworthy. But as the applause died, something unexpected happened. A voice cut through the crowd. The wedding planner, still holding her clipboard, walked up to me. She bent down and whispered, "Mr. Clark, I need your signature. The final payment is ready for processing. Should I bring the invoice here, or would you prefer to settle it in the office tomorrow?" Heads turned. Michael's parents stiffened. Emily's smile faltered. The room shifted. Guests whispered, craning their necks to see what was happening. Michael's father's voice came sharp. "What payment? Everything was already taken care of." The planner blinked. "Sir, with all due respect, the entire wedding was paid under Mr. Clark's account. Every transaction, every deposit, every contract was signed by him." Her words fell like a thunderclap. Emily's face drained of color. She reached for the microphone, her hands trembling. "Dad, why would you—" But before she could finish, Michael's father barked. "Impossible." Would you like me to bring the receipts?" the planner interrupted. Her voice was calm but firm, slicing through the tension like a blade. The ballroom went utterly silent. The illusion was breaking, and I just sat there, staring at my daughter. Her lips parted as if to explain, to cover, to beg. But nothing came out. Because the truth had finally slipped into the open. But that wasn't the end. Oh no, this was just the first crack in their perfect facade. What came next didn't just humiliate Emily and Michael's family. It shattered everything they had built their pride upon. Because within minutes, another secret would surface. One that not even Emily knew. The ballroom had gone eerily quiet. The kind of silence that weighs on your chest, making it hard to breathe. Dozens of eyes darted between me, the planner, and Michael's family. Emily's hand shook as she lowered the microphone. She tried to smile, but it looked more like a grimace. Michael leaned toward her, whispering furiously, his jaw clenched tight. His polished mask was slipping. And me, I just sat there, calm. Not because I wasn't hurting, I was, but because the truth was finally breaking through their web of lies. The planner excused herself to fetch the receipts. People were already whispering, murmurs spreading like wildfire. Wait, her dad paid for everything? Why didn't they say that in the speech? Why would they lie about something like this? Faces in the crowd turned toward me, some filled with pity, others with guilt for having believed the charade. Emily's mother-in-law finally stood, her pearls glinting under the chandelier. "This is ridiculous," she snapped. "We don't need to prove anything to anyone." But her voice cracked at the edges. "Well, for more—" Then came the announcement. No one expected. The planner returned, but she wasn't alone. With her was the venue manager holding a thick envelope. "I apologize for the interruption," he said, clearing his throat. "But there is another matter. The balance on the honeymoon suite in Maui is still pending. We require the cardholder's approval before processing." He looked directly at me. Gasps rippled through the ballroom. A few guests covered their mouths. I nodded slowly. "Yes, charge it to my account, as I've been doing all along." The weight of the words dropped like a stone. Emily's face was crimson now, tears welling up as she realized the entire room had witnessed her silence, her complicity, her betrayal. Michael lost his composure. "Why didn't you just stay quiet, old man?" he hissed, too angry to lower his voice. The microphone picked it up. The entire hall heard it. Gasps again. Disbelief, anger. The groom, the charming, smiling prince, had just called his father-in-law, the man funding the whole wedding, an old man with venom in his voice. Emily reached for his arm. "Michael, stop." But it was too late. The cracks were turning into an avalanche. A guest rose. One of my old construction buddies who had known Emily since she was little. His voice rang across the ballroom. "Shame on you, Michael. Shame on you, Emily. That man gave his life for you, and this is how you repay him? By hiding his sacrifice and mocking him for the suit he wears." The room erupted, not in applause, but in condemnation. Voices rose all around us. How could they? Ungrateful, disgusting behavior. Michael's family squirmed under the pressure. Emily sobbed quietly, her mascara streaking. Michael's jaw worked furiously, but no words came out. And yet, the worst was still to come. Because in that envelope the manager carried along with the receipts was a detail neither Emily nor Michael knew. A truth I had kept hidden until this very day. And once it was read aloud, their entire fairy tale wedding would collapse in ruins. The envelope felt heavier than it should have. The venue manager held it like a ticking bomb, and in a way that's exactly what it was. "I believe there's been some confusion," he said, glancing nervously at the furious faces in the room. "This file contains the receipts and payment authorizations, but also a note from the primary card holder." He handed it to me. For a moment, I considered sparing Emily, sparing myself, pretending this hadn't gone as far as it had. But then I remembered her words that morning. "Dad, don't embarrass me with your old clothes." And I remembered her silence when Michael's family stole my sacrifices for their own glory. No, the truth needed to be known. I stood slowly, my old suit wrinkling as I rose. All eyes locked on me. My voice was steady, though my heart pounded. "You all have been celebrating under an illusion," I began. "An illusion built on pride, lies, and selfishness." Murmurs swept through the guests again. Michael shifted. Emily buried her face in her hands. I opened the envelope and pulled out the final document. The print was bold, undeniable. Every contract, every check, every deposit for this wedding came from one source: my late wife's memorial fund. The room froze. "My Ellen," I continued, my throat tightening, "dreamed of seeing her daughter walk down the aisle. When cancer took her from us, I promised her that Emily would still have her fairy tale day. I poured my savings, my retirement, and every penny she left behind into this wedding. Not for me, not for recognition, but for Emily." Gasps, hands covering mouths, tears welling in some eyes. "And yet," I said, my voice cracking, "I was told I was an embarrassment, told to hide my old suit, told to keep quiet while others claimed the glory, all while her mother's memory, the very foundation of this wedding, was erased." Emily looked up then, her face streaked with mascara. Her lips trembled. "Dad, I didn't know." But the guests weren't looking at me anymore. Their eyes were on Emily and Michael. Judgmental, angry, condemning. Michael's father tried to intervene. "This is outrageous. This is a private matter." "No," I cut him off. "This is truth, and truth belongs in the open." The planner handed me a folder. Inside were the itemized payments: florist, caterer, dressmaker, venue, all in my name. I held them up for all to see. Silence hung heavy. The sound of shame was louder than any music that ballroom had ever played. Finally, one of Emily's bridesmaids stood, shaking her head. "Emily, how could you let this happen? How could you let everyone believe a lie?" Her voice cracked. "He's your father." Others joined in. "He paid for all this, and you hid it? Ungrateful." Michael's face twisted in rage. He yanked the microphone from its stand. "Enough. This old man is just bitter. He wanted the spotlight, and now he's ruining everything. None of this matters. We're married, and that's all that counts." But his words only sealed his fate, because in that moment, everyone saw him for what he truly was: greedy, arrogant, unworthy. And Emily, my daughter, sat crumbling beside him, her perfect wedding unraveling thread by thread. But the night wasn't done with her yet. Because what happened next would turn humiliation into a lesson neither she nor Michael would ever forget. The ballroom was a battlefield of silence, broken only by the faint hum of the string quartet, who didn't know whether to keep playing or stop. Guests whispered behind hands, their eyes sharp, cutting into Emily and Michael like knives. Emily's perfect wedding, the one she had fought so hard to make respectable, was now ashes in her hands. She looked at me then, her lips trembling. "Dad, I never wanted this. I wanted them to accept me. Michael's family. I thought if I pretended, if I hid where the money came from, they'd see me as one of them." Her voice cracked on the last word. Them. I felt my heart twist. My daughter had been so desperate for approval from people who didn't care about her. She had trampled the very man who had sacrificed everything for her happiness. But before I could answer, Michael exploded. "Pathetic," he barked, slamming the microphone on the table. The sound rang through the hall. You should be thanking me, Emily. Do you think anyone here would care about your little sob story without me? Without my family's name, you'd be nothing but a construction worker's daughter. Do you understand that? Gasps again. Pure disgust rippled through the room. Emily recoiled, as though his words were physical blows. Her bridesmaids pulled her closer, shielding her from his venom. Michael's father stood, trying to salvage the moment. Now, let's not turn this into a circus. But it was already too late. The circus was in full swing, and Michael was the clown. Then came the final blow. The wedding planner, pale and trembling, spoke up once more. Mr. Clark, I should mention there's an unpaid balance. Michael whipped around. What are you talking about? She hesitated. The catering, the band, they only accepted partial deposits. The rest is due tonight. Michael's face drained of color. His father froze. His mother's pearl necklace rattled against her collarbone as she gasped. The planner continued, and if Mr. Clark does not authorize the payment, the venue has the right to shut down the reception. The guests erupted, outraged, curious, whispering louder now. Emily turned to me, tears pouring down her face. Dad, please, don't let them end it like this. The girl who had told me not to embarrass her was now begging for me to save her. I looked at her, then at Michael, whose smugness had finally shattered. This was the moment. The invisible stakes, the years of sacrifice, the humiliation, all of it converged here. And I had a choice. I could quietly sign the check, salvage the evening, and let her continue in her fantasy. Or I could finally let her face the consequences of turning her back on the one person who had never abandoned her. The ballroom held its breath as I stood there, pen hovering over the final invoice. Emily sobbed. Michael snarled. The guests waited, every eye locked on me. And I knew, whatever I did next would change everything. The pen felt heavy in my hand, heavier than any tool I'd ever gripped in 40 years of construction work. For decades I had built homes, bridges, schools, things that lasted. But this signature? This would build nothing. It would only reinforce lies. Emily's sobs broke through my thoughts. Dad, please, I'm sorry. I should have told the truth. I should have defended you. But don't let this end in shame, please. Michael's voice cut across hers, sharp and venomous. Don't listen to her crocodile tears. Just sign the damn paper, old man. You owe us that much for meddling. The guests gasped. Someone muttered, "What a monster!" Another hissed, "Ungrateful brat." Michael's mask was gone now. No more charming smiles, no more rehearsed politeness, only greed. I looked at my daughter, her wedding dress stained with tears, and then at the man she had chosen to stand beside. And in that moment, the decision became clear. I set the pen down. Slowly, deliberately. "No," I said, my voice carrying through the ballroom. "I won't pay another dime." A collective gasp swept through the crowd. Emily's bridesmaids clutched her tighter. Michael's parents' faces drained of color. I continued. "I already gave everything I had. Your dress, this hall, these flowers, the food on the table, all of it came from me, from your mother's memory, from love, and you spat on it. You spat on me." Emily covered her face, sobbing harder. Michael lunged forward, fury in his eyes, but two of his groomsmen held him back, ashamed to even stand by him now. The venue manager cleared his throat. "Then I'm afraid the reception cannot continue. The band, the caterers, they will not proceed without full payment." Gasps again. Murmurs erupted, sharp and judgmental. Michael's mother tried to argue. "This is humiliating. You can't just shut us down." But the manager stood firm. "Ma'am, contracts are contracts. Without payment, the reception ends now." The string quartet quietly packed their instruments. Waiters began clearing trays. The champagne went untouched. And just like that, Emily's perfect fairy tale wedding turned into a nightmare. Guests began filing out, whispering as they passed. Some shook my hand in quiet solidarity. Others muttered harsh words toward Michael and his family. Michael's father barked orders, trying to save face, but no one was listening. His power, his pride, it had all evaporated under the weight of truth. Emily collapsed into a chair, her white gown pooling around her like a wilted flower. Her mascara-streaked cheeks told the story of a bride who had lost everything. Not just her reception, but her dignity. And Michael? He stood in the middle of the ballroom, jaw tight, fists clenched, humiliated in front of everyone he wanted to impress. But the story didn't end there. There. Because humiliation is one thing, redemption is another. And what Emily did in the days that followed would either destroy our bond forever or begin the long, painful road toward repairing it. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table, the sunlight spilling across the wood grain, highlighting the scratches from years of Emily doing her homework there. I held my coffee mug in both hands, but the warmth didn't reach me. I should have felt triumphant. I had stood up for myself. I had finally shown them that my worth wasn't measured by a suit or by whether I fit into Michael's wealthy world. But all I felt was heavy, empty, because as much as Michael's words had cut, it was Emily's silence that had shattered me most of all. The girl who used to hold my hand crossing the street, who once whispered, "Dad, don't ever leave me," had abandoned me when I needed her loyalty most. And yet, she was still my daughter. 3 days later, there was a knock at my door. But I opened it to find Emily standing there. Her hair was a mess, her eyes red and swollen, makeup stains still clinging faintly to her skin. She looked nothing like the glowing bride from that ballroom. She looked like a little girl again, lost. "Dad," her voice cracked. "I don't know where to start." I didn't answer. I stepped aside and let her in. She sank into the same chair she'd done her homework in years ago. She buried her face in her hands and sobbed. "I ruined everything," she whispered. "I cared more about appearances than about you. I thought if I looked perfect, if I pretended, Michael's family would respect me. But all I did was throw away the one person who always respected me, you." Her words pierced me deeper than Michael's insults ever could. "Have you worked calm?" I wanted to stay cold, to remind her of the humiliation, to make her sit in her guilt. But when she lifted her face, her eyes brimming with shame and desperation, all I saw was my daughter, my little girl who once needed me to chase away nightmares. "Dad," she said softly, "I don't expect you to forgive me right away. But please don't give up on me. I need you." The room went quiet, just the ticking of the old clock on the wall. I reached across the table, my calloused hand covering hers. "I'll never give up on you, Emily," I said, my voice breaking. "But you need to understand, respect isn't something you buy with roses and chandeliers. It's something you give, especially to the people who have stood by you the longest." Tears slid down her cheeks as she nodded. But as we sat there, one truth remained. Forgiveness is easy to say, but hard to live. And though Emily wanted to change, Michael was still in the picture, still fuming, still hungry for the power he thought he had lost. It was a week after the wedding, when the storm came knocking again. This time, it wasn't Emily at my door. It was Michael. He didn't come with flowers, or apologies, or even politeness. He came with fury. His fist slammed against the wood so hard the frame rattled. When I opened the door, he shoved past me without asking. His perfect suit was gone. He wore a wrinkled shirt, his tie half undone. His eyes were bloodshot, his pride shredded. "You ruined everything," he hissed, pacing my living room like a caged animal. "My family's reputation, our standing, our future. You destroyed it all." I stayed calm, leaning against the doorframe. "No, Michael, I didn't ruin anything. You did that yourself the moment you put lies above love." His face twisted, rage flashing like lightning. "Do you think anyone cares about your sacrifices? You're just a washed-up old man in an old suit. Emily was finally going to rise above her pathetic upbringing, and you dragged her back down with you." The venom in his words was worse than the sting of Emily's that morning. But before I could reply, another voice cut through the room. "Enough." Emily stood in the doorway, her voice trembling but strong. She had followed him. Her eyes were red, but her jaw was set. "Michael," she said, her tone sharp as a blade, "you don't get to speak about my father that way. Not anymore." Michael whirled toward her. "Emily, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly," she snapped. "I understand that I let you make me ashamed of the man who gave me everything. I let you convince me his love wasn't enough, that I had to hide him, hide the truth. And I was wrong. But not anymore." Her words hit like thunder. For the first time, Michael was speechless. She stepped past him and walked toward me. Her hand slipped into mine. "I choose my father," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Over you, over your family, over all of it." Michael's jaw dropped. "You can't mean that." But she did. Everyone in that room could feel it. And with that, Michael spat a final curse under his breath, stormed out, and slammed the door so hard the glass rattled. Silence filled the house. Emily clung to me, sobbing into my shoulder, the weight of her choice heavy but freeing. In that moment, I knew we had crossed the turning point. The pain, the betrayal, the humiliation, it wasn't erased, but it had carved a path for healing. And maybe, just maybe, we could walk it together. In the weeks that followed, Emily filed for an annulment. She came to my house often, not to ask for money, not to beg for help, but to sit with me, to rebuild what she had nearly lost. Sometimes she would take out old photo albums, tracing her fingers over the worn pictures of her childhood. "You never failed me, Dad," she said one evening, her eyes soft. "I just failed to see it." And I smiled, because though I had lost so much, my wife, my savings, my pride, what I had regained was worth more than all of it. I had my daughter back. So if you take anything from this story, let it be this. Don't ever trade the love of those who raised you for the approval of strangers. Money fades, appearances crumble, but family, when it's true, is forever. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched you, don't forget to subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, and leave a comment below about what family means to you.